That's
Because the
better.
computer just fell. I'm not sure it's going to like it. It's being recorded now, Tom.
Okay, very good. So one of the things I'm going to talk about, and this is what Carlos mentioned, is the Zoom settings. They're very complete and sometimes they're elaborate and you don't know where to go. So there's actually two locations for Zoom settings. Number one, the Zoom app. And then sometimes you have to actually go to the online application. This is what the Zoom app looks like from a desktop. And to actually get into the settings, it's that little gear icon over where you see the red circle just highlighted. Once you click on that, you can actually go into the settings. The other option is the Zoom online. So you can log into your account, and then this is where you can do a lot of things. And you scroll down here a lot. So whenever I talk about a feature, I'm going to tell you whether it's in the Zoom app or Zoom online where you make the setting changes. Because there's some things that once you make a change, that's the last time you touch it. But if you've been using Zoom and maybe you don't have a paid account, you're still using a free account, you can get a free account and do a lot of these settings. It just won't let you record and things like that on a free account. First thing to think about, and people really didn't think about this when they started doing this, is your internet connection. A lot of us were using Wi-Fi at home, and I'm thinking for video conferencing, you really need to avoid Wi-Fi because that's going to just make your signal that much stronger, and it won't have your video or audio kind of phase out or freeze, and that can happen. So what I'm talking about is a hardwired Ethernet connection. If you don't know what an Ethernet cable is, this is what it looks like. It's kind of a throwback. It looks like the old hardwired phone lines. You know, you plug them into the wall, but it had kind of a modular connection. Kind of looks like that. It's a little bit thinner and a little bit wider. And where you're going to plug that in on your computer is in an Ethernet port. And so if your device is old enough that it has a phone line jack as well, it's going to look very similar, but the one for the Ethernet's a little wider. So that's where you want to plug it into. Even if you have to run a cord across the room, it's going to make your connection so much better. It's almost mind-boggling. So let's talk about your computer and your internet modem. If you've got set up like me, my computer's on all the time. And I do that just mainly for convenience. The problem is, if it's always on, it needs a rest every once in a while. And I would suggest if you've got a big Zoom meeting come up, restart your computer before the Zoom meeting. And I would say at least an hour before, because Windows has, you know, the desire to want to update software, and usually it will force you to update software at some point, and that's usually right before a big meeting happens or when you really need the computer to be able to access it, and it's going to take you half an hour for it to download the update. So if you've got something coming up that's really important and you haven't restarted your computer in a while, restart it. You will thank me later. Also, think about your internet modem. It's on all the time, especially if you're streaming now for your TV provider. It's throwing a lot of data through that internet modem. Sometimes it needs a rest too. So I would say about once a month, go and just reset your modem. And it's just essentially unplugging it and plugging it back into power. That'll do the trick. Definitely, if you got an important Zoom call coming up and you haven't restarted your modem in a while, do that. Again, you'll thank me later. I ran into this on a podcast, and we're recording our podcast over Zoom, and everything shut down right before the podcast started. So it delayed the start of my podcast about a half an hour. That's not what you want to do when you've got an important meeting coming up. Zoom is also going to want to update its software, and you'll get notified when you're in the Zoom app that there's an update. It's going to be right in front. Don't bypass that. Go ahead and click OK. It's going to be a lot faster than a Windows update. So definitely make sure your Zoom software is up to date, because as they're rolling out new changes, that's the way they're going to get it to you. And you don't want to be locked up trying to go into a meeting and Zoom says, no, we have to update the software. So by all means, whenever you see those notices, go ahead and accept them. So the Zoom meeting settings, what I recommend is to always join a meeting with your microphone off and your video camera on. What that does is allows people immediately to see who you are coming into the meeting. And if you're still settling and moving stuff around on your desk, you don't want all that noise associated with hitting the microphone or whatever. You know, you're getting your drink or you're opening up a snack. So you don't want to hear let people hear that you're opening cellophane or something, right? So have your microphone off, and we'll talk about how you can have a push to talk setting in here a little bit. You can set this once in the Zoom app, and then you don't have to change it ever again. And it's one of the things that you set and forget, which is nice. So to do this, I'm going to show you real quick. This is in the Zoom app, the desktop app. Again, click on the little icon. It's the gear icon. goes into settings. This is the first screen you see in settings, but you want to go to video first. So when you click on video, you're going to see this screen, which is going to show your live video feed. This was something I captured before. But then what you want to do is you want to go down here, and it's probably going to be this is going to be checked on. So that means turn off my video. I want you to uncheck that. So you always have video when you join. Then you click on the audio tab. This is all of your audio settings. And this is where I want you to say mute my microphone when joining a meeting. Especially if you're joining from your phone, make this setting, and so that will help you a lot on your phone side. The other thing we talked about a little bit before is press and hold the space bar to temporarily unmute yourself. That's a great way. You can think of this as a push to talk. So, even if you don't know where the space bar is, you can find it with your hand. So my keyboard is below my desk. I can reach down, find that space bar because it's on the same place in every keyboard, and then push that, be able to talk, say what I have to say. And then when I release the button, I'm back on mute. So it's a great way to just be able to get whatever you have to say. But then, if you're in that snack and unwrapping something else or shuffling papers on your desk, nobody else is going to hear that. It's a nice feature to have set. Let's just talk about some general lighting distractions. I know a lot of people struggle with this, and depending on where your computer is set up, you may not have a lot of control over it, but you want to avoid having windows behind you. What that does, the windows behind you, that light is going to overpower almost any other light you may have in your room, and it's going to put a shadow on your face. So this one, you can actually see a little bit of who that person is, but most times it's a silhouette and you can't tell who it is. Also, if you have a very bright light behind you, that's going to overpower your image as well. And as you see in this bottom picture, the gentleman's got a ceiling fan. If you've got a ceiling fan that's in the camera shot, don't have it on, even though it's keeping you cool. That constant motion can be very irritating to people. And sometimes it can initiate an epileptic seizure in some people, depending on the reflection coming off that thing. So just avoid it. So if you want to have the ceiling fan on, just turn your camera and adjust your camera so you don't see the ceiling fan. Okay, basic lighting setup. This is a picture of a good lighting setup. If you look at it, the windows are in front of the person, but behind the video camera. The video camera in this case is at the top of her screen. So the windows being on the other side of it is great. So you get a lot of natural light on your face, and you're not having to run a lamp to do that. It's kind of hard to see, but she also has a window on the side. So she's getting natural light from two different sources, which is awesome. That's always the best way to do it. And she has an adjustable desk lamp right here that can fill in the shadows. In fact, that's what I'm using right now. I've got light from my window, and then I've got an adjustable LED light that I can adjust the color, temperature, and the intensity. So I can kind of balance the shadows that are formed by having the window on one side of me. That's a great way to do, and it's very inexpensive to have it set up like that. I've seen people actually have like studio lighting set up. That's great, but you don't have to go to that extent. So let's talk about cameras. If you don't have a good video camera in your setup or your laptop, get one. I know it was an issue early on when everybody was doing this remote computing and remote accessing. You couldn't find one, and it may still be difficult, more difficult than it was before the pandemic, but they're starting to be back in more supply. And I would say, get a camera. Even if it's something that sits on top of your monitor or your laptop, that's great, because whatever your laptop is, an external camera is going to have better technology. And a lot of them even have stereo microphones, so you could actually solve your microphone issue with a camera that sits on top. One of the nice things about that is if you're going to have a camera, turn it on. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine, because people, when you join with your camera off, if you don't have a picture on your profile, they don't see anything. So they just see a black box with maybe your name, and that's just rude. I've seen people have given a presentation and everybody turned the camera off immediately because they're going to be doing something else. That just shows that you're not paying attention. So if you're going to be on a Zoom meeting, have your camera on so people see that you're there. Besides, it's hard to connect with someone if you never see their face. This guy in the middle, and this is one of the things that actually Michelle's already addressed, his camera is pointing one direction from his monitor. So try to align the camera and the monitor where they're in the same direction. So whenever you're looking at someone on the Zoom meeting, you're looking in the same direction as the camera. So that way they don't think you're doing something else. Like I've seen people, they're off to the side, but they're actually answering emails and doing other activities instead of being engaged in the meeting. So if you've got your camera on one side and your monitor's on a different one, you're looking over at this where people looks like to them that you're not engaged and not paying attention. So external microphones. If you don't have an external microphone, what I'm using is a podcasting microphone because I'm podcasting. You don't have to do that. If you've got a headset, kind of like what Patrick was wearing, that's great. That's so much better than your built-in microphone on your laptop or your computer. It makes a huge difference. If you don't want the over the ears look, or don't want that for whatever reason, you can get earbuds. I mean, these are whatever you've got that used on your cell phone. Most computers will have a 3.5mm jack that you can plug that right into your computer or your laptop and access that with headphones. And I know that's what Michelle's using now. And that microphone, believe it or not, is going to be better than anything you've got built into your computer now, because the technology is just newer and it's going to be much, much more dynamic and capture your voice. If you've got a gamer in your household, be it your kids or your husband or your wife, whoever, they've got a better headset than you do, because those gaming headsets are really good, great microphones. And it separates the whole idea about having a speakerphone and a microphone on your laptop, because typically they're pretty close together and you can get reverb going back and forth where the microphone's picking up the people speaking on the speakerphone and it just starts echoing into a loop, and you've probably all heard it. Having a separate headset eliminates that completely, or just separating the microphone from your speaker source by a foot or so makes a big difference as well. So when you plug in an external microphone or a speaker, then you need to tell Zoom what you want it to use. So you need to plug in that microphone or speaker, or speakers if you're using different speakers before you're starting Zoom, so that when Zoom starts, it reads your information and it knows what items are available. Then down on the bottom of the Zoom screen, right next to the mic button, that microphone image, there's an up arrow. If you click on that, it's going to open up a little dialog box where you can select both the microphone and the speaker to use. So, and this is what you can change it as long as they're all plugged in. Like you see, I've got 3 different speakers I can choose and 4 different microphones that I can choose. Those are the ones you just want to make sure you get that set. And usually when you join a Zoom meeting, it gives you the option to check your video and audio settings. And so you can make that choice before you actually get into the meeting. Go ahead and make that selection. Same thing with the video camera. You want to plug in your camera, make sure it's plugged in before starting your Zoom. And then right next to that video icon, same thing, up arrow, and it shows you the options. And then you make whatever selection you want and you're good to go. One of the things I'll talk about is a little bit about being present when you're speaking. And I see I'm looking down at my screen a little every once in a while just to see where I am on the presentation, but I'm trying to look in the camera as much as possible. That's the best way for you to be connected with people that are watching you, because it looks like you're looking at them. Even I know it's hard because people want to look at their image to make sure they don't have something in their teeth or something, but to be more professional, you want to be looking at your audience, and looking at the camera is the best way to do that, because they can see your eyes, they see that you're engaged, and that's a great way to do it. One of the things I will say, when you're in a big meeting and you've got more than 3 or 4 people in it, raise your hand before you speak, because even if you've got a lot of people, it's hard for even the leader to see everybody's screen all at once. And so they can't see that you're kind of leaning forward wanting to talk. But if you raise your hand, this is something we've been doing since grade school. That's the universal way to say, I've got something to say, please call on me. And then it's a lot more organized way to get what you want to say out and to make sure everyone's heard. Just raise your hand, the leader will come to you and call on you. And that way you're not trying to talk over someone else who's talking at the same time. Now, I know a lot of people call in from their phone, and my opinion is make that your absolute last resort. Just because you've got a lot smaller screen real estate, you can't see everybody connected, and the options are a lot more limited than, say, a desktop or laptop computer. But if you're going to join from your phone, turn on your video. So if you're joining from your phone, you have no excuse that you don't have a camera, because you've got one on your phone. Turn the video on, but mute your microphone, because one of the things that when you're on an hour-long Zoom call, you're not going to hold that phone in one position for an hour. So you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of noise as you're repositioning the phone or maybe even dropping it. So just make sure that you've got it somewhere mounted so that you're not walking around or playing with the phone, because if you've got your microphone on and you're repositioning the phone, everybody's going to be hearing it. That's essentially me doing this. It's very annoying. You don't want to do that. So you can actually mount it a couple different ways. You can buy a little tripod to hold your phone in whatever direction orientation you want, or you can buy something else that's it's got a flexible kind of a gooseneck where you can position that wherever you want and just have it clipped onto the side of your desk, the monitor, whatever. There's a lot of options. They're all inexpensive, and it's a lot better than making everyone else sick to their stomach because you're walking around your office or something and the phone's kind of going all over the place. One other thing I'll mention is that the people in this picture where you see the vertical alignments, those are all people on their phone, right? And one of the things I'll say, if you're going to join from your phone, display your name, not your phone number. Everyone's got a smartphone now. Nobody remembers phone numbers. Even, you don't remember your mother's phone number because you've got it programmed in your phone. So nobody's going to know what your phone number is. And if you don't have your camera on, they're not going to know who you are. So change your display so it goes from your phone number to your phone. Now, I know some of you may say, I don't know how to do that. Well, I'm going to show you. This is going to be in the Zoom app on your phone. You've got to have that in order to be using Zoom on your phone. Open the app, and just like on the online version and on the desktop version, you're going to have a settings icon. It's the little gear wheel. Click on that. Takes you into settings. Now, this is all from an Android phone, right? So it may look a little different if you're using the iPhone, but the options are pretty much the same. Then where your account information is, in this case, I pay for my Zoom, so it says licensed. If you have a free account, it's going to say basic, right next to your name. Click on that field right by the arrow, and that gives you the option. You can upload a photo, and it's got the display name. So if that's blank, you're going to click on that right there and fill in your name. And you can actually put your name and your company name right after your name, so that always displays if you have a company name that will fit on the screen. So this is really easy to do. Again, you do it once and it's done. So if you have to call in from your phone, it's not like you have to go and make that change. You do it one time and you're finished. Now, one of the things we talked about is the chat box, and this is it's a very good way to let people know who you are. So you can add your contact information in the chat box. Now, rather than typing it up, what I would suggest is that I'm going to show you a shortcut way to do it. But the reason you want to put this information in chat is to help others know how to contact you without you forcing the contacts, right? So if we're all networking, we know the guy that goes hands out cards to everyone, right? This is a way for you to put your information out there so they can capture it at their option. Don't make it hard, and I know we talked about this in the chamber, don't make it hard for people to know how to contact you. By putting your information in the chat, you can make it really easy, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that's really cool about chat. But that way, this little help I'm going to show you keeps you focused on the meeting, and you can add your chat information, the information you contact right away without having to type it up each time, right? So what I do is I use Microsoft Word, and I've got a document that's just my Zoom intros, and I can have a couple different versions of my intro. Has every information, my name, my company name, email, phone number, plus a little tagline that talks about whatever that group may need to know. So you can have this customized for whatever groups you're joining. So sometimes I call myself a found money guy. Sometimes I talk about cost segregation services, which is the company I work for. So those things are ways that you can customize your contact information to whatever meeting you want to go to. This is so easy to do. Once you've done that, you open up, you highlight what you want to share, copy, and then you paste it over in the chat window and make sure it's going to everyone. Then you paste it in there, it's done. That takes about 2 seconds. You don't even have to really think about it because of copy and paste, and you can actually do this before the meeting starts, have it clipped into your clipboard, and then paste it as soon as the meeting starts, and then you're done. You don't have to think about it anymore. There's a couple other features in the chat box that are really helpful. And so let me show you how to do this, and you guys can think about the best ways to apply this for your business. In the chat box, if the host has this features turned on, and I'm going to show you how to do that as a host in a little bit, you can upload files to chat, whether they're pictures, whether it's a presentation. In fact, I'm going to upload this whole presentation to the chat box at the end. So be sure you look for that before you get off this call. If you click on that file option, it's going to ask you where that you want to share this file from. So if it's coming from Google Drive or your computer or wherever, that just takes you into that application so you can actually open it up. If it's coming from your computer, it's going to open a Windows Explorer. And so you can just kind of navigate to where the file is and then share it. It's going to show up in the chat so everybody can then click on it and download it to their computer. The other option, the three little dots there, that's kind of the universal menu. So that means there's more options there. This is where you can save the chat dialogue to a file. So if you click on that and you see that first option is save chat, that's where you can click on it to save it. Now, the other options you see down, participant can chat with, all those other options, that's because I have a paid account and I can host Zoom calls. So that's where I can make that setting for this meeting. I'm going to show you how to make that setting once and forget it. It's a nice thing to have because this makes it possible for people to privately chat with each other. So they're not sharing information that everybody can see. If they say, hey, Charlie, I want to talk to you after about whatever, they can do that in the chat window. The person sees it as the meeting's going on without having to have a separate conversation. So once you click Save Chat, you see a little notification there, the chat is saved. Now, you can click on the message that says Show in Folder, and it will open up a separate window with that file in the folder. But once you've saved it, once the Zoom call ends, that folder will actually pop up without you having to do anything. So it's a nice thing to save the chat. But I would say do it at the end, because if you do it early on, if anybody adds things to the chat later on in the meeting, you won't see that. So wait to hit the save chat just before the meeting ends to make sure you get all the information. And just so they know, any private information won't be saved unless that's a message to and from you, right? So you're not going to pick up other people's private chats. It's not going to show up that way. One of the things that I always like is digital calendars. And if you're struggling with Zoom, I would say you start using a digital calendar. It makes it so much easier because you're not having to learn Zoom, how to set up a meeting in Zoom. You do it from your digital calendar. Now, I use Google Calendar just because, number one, it's free. And number two, it's very powerful. So go ahead and make your selection in your calendar. You set the subject line, the date and time, all that information. And if you see, I've got a button here that says make it a Zoom meeting. If you've got an account, you click that button and it's going to populate the bottom of, in the notes section, everything about that meeting. So there's your hot link, there's your meeting ID and password. That hot link is what you can share with people. Now, if this is a one-on-one meeting that you're wanting to set with someone, once that's done, all you need to do is type in their email address over in the guest, save it, and they're going to be sent a meeting notice with the date, the time, the subject, and the Zoom hot link. So whether they use digital calendars or not, they're going to see this in their email. That's the notification that they can then save that wherever they need to. But having it in a calendar is so much easier. You just open your calendar, go to that event, click on it. You don't have to open the event. Once you brought it up to be able to see what's in there, you can click it from that detail. You don't have to open to edit it. So it's an awesome, awesome feature. Now let's talk about some things to do if you're going to host a call, especially if you're hosting a call, something like this, where there's multiple people. You want to turn on some features for participants. And this is things that people that are new to Zoom just don't do. And it makes it, I find it makes it less usable for me and for other participants. You want to enable chat between participants. So I think the default is like chat with everyone. They can't do a private chat between people. You want to turn that on. You also want to enable the file upload. That's not turned on by default. You need to go in and change that. And then you want to enable the save chat dialogue to a file. That's got to be something that's got to be turned on as well. Where you're going to do that is in the online Zoom application. So you just go through an internet browser, go to Zoom, sign into your account, and then this is the screen that you'll see. You want to click on settings, and then you're going to go into security, which is where this is. You're going to scroll down a bit. So this is a big window. You're going to have to scroll down quite a bit. So what I've done, I've kind of zoomed this in. So when you're into the section that says in meeting, these are the options that you want to turn on. Now, just if you look at the first option there about encryption, that button's kind of grayed out. That means it's off. Everything else that's turned blue is on. So these are the things that you want to turn on for chat. Just turn it on to send message visible to all participants. And then you want to make a private chat, make that active so people can send chat messages to each other. And then auto saving. This is great for a host, because if you turn that on and you're hosting a meeting, the chat file will be automatically saved, and then you'll get a notification of where that chat file is. So it makes it helpful for hosts to have that done for them, so they're not having to remember to do it. And then file transfer. This is a great way, again, to let people share files in the chat window so that people can grab them if they want to. Another thing about hosting meetings, and we talked about early on, select a co-host. Now, co-host has to be done once the meeting starts, but what that enables you to do is to offload the waiting room management to someone else. So in this case, right now, Carlos is the host. If he had made me the co-host, I could have had the responsibility of letting people in, and I would have gotten notifications when other people wanted to come into the meeting room, and we could do that. So to make someone a co-host, it's really easy. Once the meeting started, down at the bottom, I've just put it up at the top so you can actually see it. Click on the Manage Participants, and then you get an actual list of who's in the meeting. If you hang your cursor over an individual's name, you'll get the options to either mute that person or some more options. Then you go down and click on Make Co-host, and you're done. So that way they have all the same features that you do as the host. The other option is muting microphones. If you've got someone who's new to Zoom and they've got a lot of background information and a lot of background noise going on, you can turn their microphone off rather than stopping the meeting, trying to get their attention to turn their microphone off. The way you do that, same thing. Go to Manage Participants. You'll get a list of everyone that's in the meeting, and you just hover over their microphone and click on it, and it will turn it off, right? So now people can mute themselves, and you can't unmute them if they've muted themselves, but this is a way for you to mute them early on, especially if there's a lot of distraction from their end, right? That's a way to kind of turn that off and let the meeting continue without all the distraction. So if you're going to share some meeting details on social media, one of the things I suggest is create the Zoom meeting before posting. What that's going to do is it's going to make it easier for people to join, because right now, and I'm going to use this as a great learning exercise. When Carlos first posted this, he had the meeting ID, but there was no clickable link, right? So you see the meeting ID there. That's great, but you're causing people to do a lot of work, and they're going to have to open Zoom, start a meeting, type in an ID. If there's a password, they got to type in the password as well. But if you add that clickable link, that eliminates all that issue. So what he did is he went back, edited his post, and put in the clickable link, which is right here. That way everybody can see that. What I'm saying is that do this first. Don't make people have to go back and search for it. If you do it first, once they first see the notification, they can copy and paste that into their digital calendar, and now they've got it, and they've got it with them wherever they go. So if you don't do it initially, definitely put it out there, the same place that you posted the meeting, so people can find it. So one of the things we'll talk about is actually sharing documents on Zoom. That's real important, but you need to know one important thing is whatever your application is, have that open before you start your share. Because what's going to happen, your window is going to come up and it's going to ask you which one you want to share. So to start the share, click on the share screen, then select the window that you want to share. So if you've got a lot of things open, you're going to have to know what document it is you want to highlight that, and then click on share, and that's actually what will get shared with all of your participants. The one thing that's also important is to stop it once you're done with the document. And a lot of people I've been on say, how do I stop this thing? I don't know. Right at the top of the screen, you're going to say you're screen sharing, and this is stop share. And that's what you click to put it back into the gallery view and then turn off your document so it's not taking up all the screen. It's always going to be at the top of the screen. One of the things about if you're viewing a Zoom presentation and you're not the presenter, there's some tricks to make it a little bit more effective for you. You can maximize the shared screen image by clicking on the view options and then selecting side-by-side mode. You probably never noticed this before, but at the top of the screen, there's a button that says View Options. If you click on that, you'll have this option to go side-by-side. When you do that, it maximizes the screen and into two windows. One window is the presentations being shared. The other window is the view of the participants. Now this line in the middle is something you can control. So you can grab that line, drag it to one side or the other, and that way it'll maximize the presentation even more and minimize the gallery view. Also, you can actually switch to speaker view, and we'll talk about it in a second, but if you switch to speaker view, only the person that's speaking is going to be displayed on this side of the window. So then you've essentially got side to side, the presentation and the person's face, so you can see them as they're talking. And that speaker view is right up there in the top corner. Now, I'm going to talk about the difference between speaker and gallery views. The way Zoom works is whatever you see up here in this box, that's not what you're looking at. So in this case, when you see gallery view, you're in speaker view. And what speaker view says is it's going to maximize the screen of whoever is the current speaker. That doesn't mean the current speaker, that means whoever's making the most noise. So if someone's got their microphone on and they're shuffling papers and that overpowers the speaker, that's the window you're going to see displayed. So that's another reason why to mute your microphone. Now this is like the gallery view. If you see that, got it. If you see that the speaker view is shown here, that means you're in gallery view. You see everyone. And that way, as people start talking, their window gets highlighted by green. And so you can see everybody at the same time, and it's not changing who the current speaker is. So it's not going to be so confusing. That's all I've got for you. I know that was a lot, but I'm going to open it up for questions. But the one thing I'll say, and just in conclusion, if you haven't gone through the Zoom settings, do that. There's a lot of information there. Take 10 minutes, go through all the screens, and just be sure you've got the settings the way you want them. And I'll stop my
also,
share.
guys, it's not all. We have a couple more things to share with you.
And I'm going to stop my share right now.
Good. I mean, good because we can continue. But if anybody has questions, guys, I put in the chat. If you guys know of a good immigration lawyer, please send me the information because we're looking for an immigration lawyer. And okay, so what I'd like to ask you to do right now, please. I know you have some questions, but just stop. Stop everything in your mind. Forget everything you just learned and think that you're in business. And if you're in business, when you go to a Zoom meeting, you don't go for the meeting. You go for who is there. For example, Patrick should be all over Michelle Dixon in a good way, asking her questions and networking. Because Patrick knows he's a loan officer. He needs real estate professionals in his network. He shows up to these meetings looking for someone to talk to. It's important, guys, that when you're doing Zoom, you always identify people to talk to. And when somebody's talking and yapping and they do those, everybody goes around and gives their commercial for 5 hours and it's so boring and so awful, you are conducting business. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about you having the right image that I trust you, but you're doing the outreach. You're not just sitting there, listening to something and getting bored or whatever. And you're not even here for learning as much as you're here for doing business. I hope that makes sense to you because your behavior has to be very, very intentional on this thing. If it's not intentional, you'll treat Zoom like television and you'll become passive and you will be unsuccessful on Zoom. You've got to get in there and do some things, okay? So it'll make a lot of what we've shared already more useful. If you have any questions right now, by the way, raise your hands because that way I can stop talking. And because Michelle put together a couple of little things that she wanted to share with us. But I think Jaime he's wiggling around. So Jaime, what do you have to say? Do you have something you want to share, Jaime?
I just learned a lot from Tom. I'm a self-teached on Zoom, but I learned a lot today. I really appreciate you taking the time to showing us so simple things like,
Uh-oh, you muted yourself.
You see, now I'm using the space bar to talk, and it is great. I'm going to teach everybody this one. And the other one that you can scroll the screen from, make it bigger and small. That was great. And the settings, I really appreciate everything, guys. I'm excited. And I love that Elsa is with you, with a group like successful people like you are. And I'm glad.
Very good. Okay. So if you guys have anything, let me share some more information. Let's go quickly with what Michelle wants to share with you guys. Remember that what Michelle will help you do. And by the way, just remember this, as a presenter or as the host, I'm responsible for making sure that you guys get what you're looking for in these meetings. And I know what you're looking for. You're looking for people to hear what you have to say and give you business. That's what I do as a host. That's why I'm looking at the immigration lawyer. I introduced Elsa as as our sponsor for our podcast. And if you guys have insurance, any kind of insurance that's coming up, talk to her about renewing your insurance. She can quote you very fast. I know Patrick, he's a real estate guy. He does mortgages, and the CBD granny down there you can buy CBD oil. You know, the idea is that my responsibility here is not what you're thinking. It's beyond, it's different. You know, and I always want to make sure, that's why it's so important that we let everybody talk and everybody do whatever they've got to do. So Michelle is all about follow-up. And I know a lot of you guys have lost business because you don't follow up. She can help you follow up. There's a great system. And she has a couple of points she wants to make real quick about Zoom. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and share what you got to share, please.
I think I do have a few points, but one of the most important things is arrive early to the Zoom. Just like when you go and network, a lot of networking happens after the meeting. In Zoom, it doesn't usually happen after as much as it does before. So if you can get in 5 or 10 minutes early, it gives you guys a chance to just chat and get to know that person a little bit better. And it also allows the meeting to get started on time. These meetings can get pretty tedious with a lot of information, and you want to get started and get in and get out and get your information and meet people. The other thing is, as far as lighting, you can get a very inexpensive ring light on Amazon, and it allows you to change the colors depending on if you're doing it at night or in the day. So I suggest that. The background, be careful about your background. This right here is too messy. Don't do this. It's too much going on. But it's important that I am looking directly at the camera. The other thing is your appearance. It needs to be professional. Carlos went over some of that because, and there's the dog, because I want to do business. Oh, wow, I'm really sorry. Stop. There's a cat in the bottom.
You're doing that to let us know how you work. No? You're doing that on purpose, Michelle.
It's learning. There you go. Shut up, dog. Go ahead, Michelle.
Who's louder? Wow, I'm sorry, guys.
Right,
I want to do business with somebody I know. If I don't see you, I'm not going to do business with you. I guarantee you. I want to see you, and I want to see you in all your glory, whether you've got good hair, bad hair day. Wow, it's just everything going on. Okay, and then the other thing is the copying chat. I believe, and Tom, you can correct me, if you come in late to a meeting, you only get as much as where you started, where you came into the meeting. You don't get what was previous. So you'll miss that information. And then I have a higher level package, and it allows you to transcribe your meeting. So if that's something that's important to you for any reason that you want transcriptions, you can get that. And I think that's pretty much it. But I think probably the most important thing is to get the chat, include your information in that chat window, follow up with those people. And that can mean just sending them an email or a text message and saying, you know, hey, it was great to see you. Otherwise, you're not going to get work out of just going to a Zoom. You have to have, it still requires the same number of touches with people.
Now you guys can see this, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just real fast then. What Michelle was saying is perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Being on time, not interrupting, and staying until the end. I'm telling you guys, there's too much noise and there's too many people that do what you do or say they do for me to worry about you as an entity. So if you, for example, do insurance and you don't stay until the end, I will find somebody else. It's real simple. So you really want to make sure you commit the time to attending meetings and stay in the meetings until the meeting is over. Something else, let me go back to this just to share real fast something. A big idea here is that when people send the credentials, all of this information is useless. The only thing you really need is just a link. is how are you going to get into the meeting. That's all you need, and the password. All the other stuff, I always try to erase it because it just confuses people. Yeah. So if you're new to Zoom, or if you're trying to figure out Zoom, don't worry about sending all the information that just is confusing. We already talked about the image. That's easy, just to understand that if you have your kid with you or your dog is barking or stuff like that, that does impact your business. It'll impact you for sure. Tom mentioned this, video on, mic off when you go in. If I can't see you, I won't trust you, I won't give you business. It's easy. So being on time, what we talked about, your commercial guys, if you, at the beginning, everybody gave a commercial, kind of told us who they are and what they do. Most of you just sounded just like you do in any other networking group. It's not the same. If you're giving me a bad commercial, it's even worse on Zoom. You have to give me a 10 to 15 second commercial. I can help you get paid right away as a realtor. It's attractive. The listings are really busy now and the real estate market is so, all this stuff doesn't matter unless I'm buying a home. So that's secondary. Right now, this is all about attraction and about you being interesting to the people that are here. So you want to be brief, to the point, punchy, etc. Okay, so in conclusion, what we're talking about here and the behavior you want to have, if you're networking on Zoom, focus on people you know that don't know you, focus on creating a secondary meeting with people who you know you can serve, and then go after them. Like right here, like on the chat, say, hey, Michelle, do you have an email? I can send you information. I think you'd really benefit. I could really benefit from your services. I'd like to talk to you. This is why you show up to this thing. You don't just show up to watch a TV show. This is not a novela, guys. Trust me. Right? And getting aggressive, there's nothing wrong with getting aggressive. There's nothing wrong with getting aggressive. There's nothing, and what I mean by aggressive is just getting off our passiveness and saying, I'm going to do something with this thing. Okay. Now I'd like to ask you to give us your opinion, please, because this is about you guys sharing what's on your mind and about telling us what you're thinking and if this was helpful. So we'll start with Patrick, who seems to be very interested still. Very good. Thank you, Patrick. Tell us what's on your mind, Patrick. Patrick.
Yes, I'm right here. I see Zoom is going to just continue. And even if we get back to normal, people are going to see the practicality of doing 3 meetings in 3 hours versus taking an hour drive somewhere, do 1 meeting and an hour back.
Right.
You will still need the personal touch once COVID is gone and we can go and see people face to face. And we're going to, I'm going to love it because I miss real contact with people. But today's meeting is great because it showed me a couple extra things that I needed to know on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm going to test my Calendly link and just pop it up there. I think that'd be a great way for you to set up, hey, you want to set up a meeting with me? Here's my link. Here's my calendar. Just set it up. Just like you said, you have to be aggressive. Be aggressive in a positive way.
Right. The big idea, guys, too, if you facilitate Zoom meetings, do what I'm doing. Let people talk. Let them say what's on their mind. Let them talk throughout the whole presentation. They come to talk. You came to talk. If I don't let that happen, it's frustrating to leave a meeting when nobody even asked you what you do and who you are. So multiple times, we know Patrick can get you paid if you're a real estate professional. We know that he's talking to Michelle Dixon, and he also wants to talk to anybody that does real estate because that's what he does. Next is Sharon McClung. Sharon, tell us what you thought. What are your feelings? We haven't seen you in a little bit, Sharon. We hope to see you more. Of course, Sharon is a photographer, but she's also doing the Arbonne thing. Go ahead, Sharon, please.
This was a great meeting for me because, I got to see about how to do some settings and stuff. And even though common sense tells you some of the stuff that you went over, Tom, the settings are what I really needed. And I downloaded your presentation already. But this is going to be great for me too, because some of my clients, they come to me, they get their photos taken, and then they're out of town, right. Especially for big families. And this would be a good way for me to contact the people who are out of town, look at them right on eye to eye and deal with whatever questions they might have. And then I also have my network marketing, which I'm just starting up now. So this is going to be really great for me for that.
Very
So
good.
thank you so much.
But the idea, though, is not to think about it too much. The idea, the way Tom, the way myself, the way those of us that kind of know Zoom learn, you know, Jaime did this too, is just do it. Just do it, do it, do it, do it, and screw it up. And I've lost presentations. I've done all kinds of dumb things on Zoom. But the idea is that you just have to keep doing it until you get good at it. It's normal. Michelle Dixon, are you still there? I don't know. I have to yell.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I enjoyed the presentation. I really learned some information about the settings, and that was very, very useful. And I'm going to work on getting my picture reduced in size because you see only part of my face there. But most of the time I like to be live, of course. But
Yes.
every once in a while I have to pop in a picture of me because, well, just because. Anyway. But I appreciate all the information on the presentation. Thank you.
Very good. How about you, Cindy? I was going to say Nancy. Cindy Caro? Maybe we need to look at that, changing the names there, Tom.
Yeah, but you have to do it before you sign on. So once I'm on, it's too late, I think. So anyway, yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, Tom. Great information. Very helpful.
No, that was it. So just change your name, Cindy. Okay. How about Elsa and Jaime? Do you guys have anything you'd like to share with the group?
No, I mean, I did learn a few things on here. There was things like Jaime and you said, I just learned by doing them. And yeah, I'm gonna for sure be...
Here's the most important thing, Elsa. I love you, but here's the most important thing. Get aggressive. Get aggressive. Every person here needs insurance. Every one of them needs insurance, but they're passive. They're not thinking about insurance. The more you tell them, hey, Michelle, I think you're very cool. I love what you said. I'd love to quote your insurance for you. I can do it in 5 minutes. Yeah. What would you say to that, Michelle? You better say yes.
That was you.
The dog's still barking. Michelle, you're muted. You're still muted. But I can hear Patrick. Okay, so sometimes it doesn't work.
I don't know which Michelle you were talking about. That little spacebar thing didn't work every time.
Okay, so when you're in one of these meetings, Michelle, and you're sharing your information and people are listening to you, Patrick, mute your microphone.
Patrick, stop talking.
Carlos, you can mute him.
Okay, I just got it.
You can mute him. I showed you how to mute him. You can.
I did already. Relax. When somebody, Michelle, when somebody is good to you, they're nice to you, see them, they're interesting to you, etc., and they say, "I'd love to quote your insurance." How would you respond to that? If they do it in 5 minutes.
I'd say, okay.
Right. Now, Michelle does accounting for hundreds of people. She knows a ton of people. Okay. If you make a connection with somebody like Michelle, anybody here, it can mean the world to you. The thing is, guys, you have to take advantage of this. People are very open when they come to Zoom because they're in their underwear. Well, some of us, you know. The thing is, they're very open, but you've got to be the one that initiates. That's the biggest thing about networking in Zoom, is you've got to be the one that initiates. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Give us anything on your mind, Cindy, that you'd like to share.
I was unmuting myself. No, this is great. Thank you very much. Very informative.
Down to my left, and Phyllis, anything for you?
Yes, thank you, Tom. I have a quick question. You said you were going to show us how do we put our picture like Michelle has on there so that we don't show the black screen? Where do you download like our picture from Facebook if we have to not show it? I don't know how to do that.
Profile.
In the profile. So you go into the app and then you go to profile, and when you see where your name is on the phone app or on the digital, just go to profile and it'll say select photo.
Okay.
You can take a picture with the camera or you can upload one.
I want to also just share something real quick with you guys. Look at the way I look. Check me out. Coffee. Does that look professional?
If it has CBD on the cup.
No, relax. Does that look good to you guys? Does this look good? Cheetos.
No.
Don't eat and don't drink when you're on Zoom. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't, you know? So you can get yourself out of video, just stop the video and then eat and then come back and start it again. I'm telling you guys, everything counts, everything matters, because this is about building trust with people. And there's just too many people out there saying they do the same thing you do. So you have to maximize every opportunity to make sure you build trust. Stay aggressive with this. Tom, what words do you have? Anything more?
Just like we kind of said before, if you're trying to figure out how to do something, ask somebody, ask one of us, or Google it. I mean, there's so many information out there. You can probably find a video that shows you how to do it. Just Google, how do I do this on Zoom? And that's where I got a lot of the images for this presentation, because I was looking for images without having to do it myself and take a screenshot. There's so many how-to stuff on Zoom out there. Zoom has a lot of stuff itself, but all these different companies have posted things for their employees. So you can kind of piggyback on something that somebody else has already done that shows you how to do the things you want to do.
Another great way to network using Zoom, guys, is start your own meeting. Start your own thing. There's all kinds of, I mean, right now, one of the weird things about these times we're in is before the chamber was a lot successful because we had good meetings. People would show up and we had good meetings. Now, anybody can be as successful as us, because if you have a good Zoom meeting, people show up about any topic. So guys, take advantage. You don't have to be good meeting presenters to be a good Zoom presenter. Just learn how to present Zoom, you know? And you can have your own meeting about anything and start your own network. It doesn't have to be the business crunchers or whatever. It can be you, and you can have your own thing right from home. No big deal.